Okay, call to order. The Bastrop EDC Board reserves the right to convene into executive session at any time during the meeting regarding any agenda item in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code. Starting off with any public comments today?
We have one signed up for item 3.5.
Okay, when we get to 3.5, we will ask them to come forward. Okay, going on to regular business and presentations. 3.1. Approval of meeting minutes of the Bastrop EDC regular board meeting of February 26, 2018.
Board, in your packet, you have the meeting minutes from the February 26, 2018 meeting.
Any comments?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, on to item 3.2, acceptance of the Bastrop EDC's financial summary report for period ending February 28, 2018. Sean?
Thank you, Board. This is the financial summary ending February 2018, looking at our revenues versus expenses, revenue of 246 versus expenses of 130, which keeps us in the positive category for the year. Just remembering we're early in our CIP program in spending, and we'll look at that here in a few slides. Looking at sales tax revenue, Tracy's done a forecast for February at $220,000. We brought in $240,000, $19,000 in the green. Looking at expenditures against our 2018 forecast through the end of February, and then the actual. We have one negative in the monthly variance, which is an occupancy, which is rent, cleaning, and then communications, I believe, is in that one as well. We will at some point need to do a budget transfer into occupancy specifically for rent. We did not know at the time that we did the budget what our rent would be for FY 2018, and so that is driving a little bit of shortfall there. But it looks like it will be a line item. At the moment when I looked at it earlier today, it looks like it'll be a line item transfer within occupancy and not where we're transferring in from outside of the same category. But as we get closer into the year and we know better what that communication and maintenance and repair is, we'll have a better idea. But we're closing the gap of what that difference would be. Looking at capital outlays, with the scope of work signed with Bowman Consulting, you'll start seeing Agnes Home Depot Way infrastructure, all the engineering to date that they've done hit the books there, and everything else in the trail system and the business park project technology, MLK, is also all engineering at this point. And then we will go over, as one of the items tonight, a change order within the technology MLK that will be coming from contingency. Fund balance here, this is the projected fund balance after the audit's accepted. I would have to ask Tracy, but I'm pretty sure she will update this with actual fund balance at the end of 9/30/2017. And so moving forward in March, you will see the actual fund balance on 9/30/2017, because that is complete with the audit, and then all of that will be recalculated to give us our gross projected fund balance at the end of FY 2018. Debt obligation, the chart that shows that we are in current debt, pays off out in FY 33. Within the financial statements for the month, other than the occupancy, I didn't see anything that was irregular.
Make a motion to accept the financials. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, on to item 3.3. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on the City of Bastrop's comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year 2017.
Here with us tonight is Chief Financial Officer, Director of Finance for the City of Bastrop, Tracy Waldron.
Good evening. The comprehensive annual financial report has been presented to the City Council at our last meeting, and the independent auditor came and made the presentation. Sean had asked me to pull out what is has to do with the Economic Development Corporation out of the report and go over that with you. We did not give you the entire report, which you can find on our website under financial transparency on the finance page. But what you have in your agenda is just the pages that relate to the Economic Development Corporation, which in our world you are considered a component unit. It just means that you have a special enough relationship with the city that it would be inappropriate not to include you in our report. So your expenses are audited just like the city's expenses, and everything about the audit is the same for you as it is for us. So going over this is your statement of net position. I just want to point out at the bottom that your net position is 1.9, almost $2 million. Most of that position is net investments in capital, mainly land, but y'all do have some buildings carried on your books that go back to the Garments to Go and the Art Foundry, I believe. Also, you have some dedicated money under economic development. Those are your development incentive agreements. So those are restricted until the incentives are met, or if the incentives aren't met, then they become unrestricted and become available for y'all to spend. I'm going to go to this page. So the EDC is the last column. There was $1.4 million in expenses last year, but there were 2.3
Tracy,
million.
hold us up. We're on page 14 in case, just make sure we're on.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good.
Good. At 2.3 million was brought in revenue, which you'll see the 1.9, almost $2 million ties to the net position. These are considered notes to the financials, and this is the capital assets. So it just gives you an idea of the capital assets that are being carried on the EDC's books. Like I had said before, most of it is land. The building and improvements relate back to the Garments to Go and the Art Foundry contracts. And then at the bottom, it just lists the long-term obligations of the corporation. And so the majority of it being the participation in bonds that EDC has participated with the city. That's the 3.2 million at the bottom.
Tracy, can I add one thing here? When I was going through this this afternoon, you'll see under notes payable the 2014 $600,000 in 2024. That's not one that you have seen in debts that the EDC is carrying as we've talked about debt issuances. That is actually $600,000 that the city agreed to fund to the city of Bastrop for water improvements. And so we pay that to them, $60,000 a year at 0% interest. And then the city with that $60,000 goes and invests it in whatever water stuff they want to invest it in. But it was a ballot referendum. I'm going to add that to our debt service schedule so that y'all can see that in the future. It was one that flagged out to me that was not on the normal debt service schedule.
So unless you have any questions for me, that's
Tracy,
that's your financials.
Did you get to look into the building improvement item that we talked about in January during this audit period, during the audit with the auditors?
Refresh.
There was some accumulated depreciation?
It was accumulated. It is related. The best that we can tell, it was related to the Main Street office.
Right.
And
Oh, yes.
That's still not correct on the financials?
No, I think everything's fine. But I'll go back and look at it.
Oh, we had to make an adjustment to that.
If it is not going to be in these numbers because these were audited and we didn't make any changes after about December. So
It didn't come up in the audit?
No.
Okay. Were there any other audit issues that
No.
were related to us?
No management letter, no suggestions, no.
Good. Thanks.
It's not really a question, but clarification. Didn't we talk about having our own standalone audit moving forward?
He has.
And is that the plan?
Yes, moving forward in the FY19 budget, Tracy and I have visited about that, and she will be getting us a price on what that will cost me. In fact, Charlie leaned over and asked if we did that. And this, back in 2015, when I got here, we didn't even do this. And so with FY16 was the first time that we even brought the EDC's portion of the city audit to the board. And so the next step is, as we've discussed previously, is getting a price to have a standalone audit and actually having the auditor come and present to the board. By the time we began discussing that with the board 2-3 months ago, the audit was already
I knew
in
it was
progress.
for the next fiscal year, but I really just kind of wanted everyone to know, yeah, we're a part of the city this time, and this is what we're talking about, but the plan is to be separate moving forward.
Also, Mary, to that end, it's not an agenda item, but from the policies portion that the ad hoc committee is the work that's being done there, you will see many facets of tools and resources that we're going to do independently to ensure that we are completely separate and functioning that way. We still have a lot of work to do, but that's the path we're headed.
Chair, I apologize, Linda Humble, City Manager. It's perfectly fine y'all do that, but please know that it's not going to change the fact that our auditors will still audit your books. So it will be a double service so long as you know that. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comment? Okay. Going on to 3.4, update and possible action regarding the 921 Main Street 27. Do we have to accept that? My apologies.
I move to accept the audit as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Now, 3.4. Update and possible action regarding the 921 Main Street 2017 Phase 1 Site Assessment and Conceptual Planning Report and Interim Site Remediation Plan by KSA Engineers.
So Eric has made it from KSA Engineers. He was also stuck in traffic. But he is here to kind of walk you through. Their engineers, structural and civil, made a site visit to 921 Main since the last board meeting and have evaluated the site and have proposed a scope of work for engineering services to look at what needs to be done for that interim remediation site plan, as well as proposed what they feel, looking at the opinion of probable cost estimate that was done with the original site remediation plan, what necessary parts of that would be encompassed. And as part of this, they will put together that plan, help us get a contractor, come back to y'all. And what we need from y'all tonight is, after listening to Erica's direction and moving forward, and yes, we want to employ KSA to develop the full engineering, yes or no, whether or not you want to go ahead and give us direction on a cap based on their estimate that they've provided, so that we can start the process of putting the documents together. But Eric Davis with KSA Engineers.
Good evening, thank you. I am not an engineer, I'll say that first. The mayor threatened to play Stump the Chump with me tonight earlier. I told her, please don't. However, I work around a bunch of engineers, and we were out on this site. I also work with the developers that you've chosen to develop this site into a retail and office mixed-use building of about 9,500 square feet. The leasing has been being pushed, and you're going to hear more about that at the next meeting, in your April meeting, from the broker and the developers as well, and I'll be here for that meeting. But until then, we've got an issue with some, I don't know if leakage or isn't really the right word. I think it's just more moisture penetration problems that you're having with your neighbors, and you all know about that. So what we decided that we need to look at, or what Sean had asked us to look at, is what could we do to fix it in an interim basis for a year or two. Now, next week, a tenant may walk up and ready to go, and here we go. But I don't think it's going to happen quite that quick. It's been a little bit tougher to lease that downstairs portion than we thought. I think the upstairs will be easy. It's still going to take a few months to get it all together. Then we've still got some time to go to the architect, architecture and engineering on this building. That'll take another 3 months or so. So realistically, even in best case scenario, I think you're probably looking at end of summer before you'd see dirt turning out there, if you will. So in the meantime, we've got the rainy season coming up, hopefully, or maybe, and we could have some problems here. So what do? I don't know, but we would ask that you would hire us so that we would give you an engineering report, really get into looking at what it probably is going to be is repointing and retooling the masonry on the sides, putting in some new bricks there, and maybe a sealant on it. If there's a temporary sealant, we don't want to put something permanent that we've got to come back in and sandblast out, because that brick is very soft, and then we're sandblasting soft brick, and that's not a good idea. The other thing is you're getting some leakage, we think, down through the foundation area. So perhaps a curb across the foundation on either side that then would be caulked, if you will, so that water, it pushes that water away from those walls because you are getting some standing water. We know that from a building envelope specialist that we hired about 6 months ago. After this was done, you really had that leaking problem around it was around Harvey.
It was right after Harvey.
Yeah, after Harvey. So all that's to say is we have a proposal in front of you for $4,500 to do an engineering study on this, really look at it in detail, put some plans together that would allow you to hire a contractor. What we also think is you ought to have some topographic survey that's not been done on that. We don't know which way this thing drains. It's extremely flat, and maybe there's some cuts you could do in that foundation. That foundation's got to come up anyway before a building's built. It's all going to be jackhammered out, but until then, maybe there's some cuts we can get the water off the foundation and away from those side tenants that are on either side of you. That's another $2,200. So we're at $6,750, I think, all in on a proposal that then would allow you to get with a contractor. We'll help you find a contractor. We don't think this is a huge process. If you ask me how much, the answer is I don't know, but we'll do an opinion of probable cost. I'm guessing, I would hope we could get something done for as little as $15,000, but not more than $25,000 or $30,000. That's a guess at this point, because until we really get in and look at it heavy. Is that? You had a question about what if we do this?
We'll get to that on the next
Okay,
slide.
I'll let you have that one next.
So the other thing on the topographical survey is, since we did the original study, the parking lot to the rear has been built, and we have some questions about where the water that ends up on the foundation is actually going. And so part of the topographical survey is going to be figuring out elevations of the street and where that water goes once it leaves the site, and also on the rear of that, with the parking lot now being built, where's that water going to the rear, because you're running into the curb, the backside of the curb in the parking lot.
So I have heartburn over spending money on a slab that we're going to jackhammer. So now that you're talking about, no, really the issue is curb line on Main Street where the parking lot is, then my next thing is we really don't know where those are. We just built the parking lot. We don't know the elevation of the parking lot we just built.
We probably know the elevation of the parking lot. What we don't know is the elevation of the slab. And we don't know the specific elevation of the street and how the street drains.
So
We don't know which direction.
Is the
we're going.
2250 just for the survey crew?
That's the survey crew in the topo.
So is it, it's been too long. Is it a single unit, or are you guys going to?
Single unit.
So it's pretty much the cost of a day of gathering everybody up and putting it out there? Because I think you're going to get more information than you need, and it, again, just part of it irks me that we're spending money on something we're going to jackhammer.
But well, that's true. Yeah, I was going to say we'll have somewhat. We won't have a topo because we're going to jackhammer all that out. We'll have another topo. But
so all of your KSA engineering brains together, this is the best solution to topo it?
we don't have to topo. We don't have to topo. Our concern is that you don't know what's happening in the back where that water's going up against the parking lot right now. No, the topo we kind of added at the end of, and it's an option. We can just do the engineering report. We can point the brick. We can put the curbs in. Then the question is, okay, now where's that? Now that we've stopped the water from going out, where is it going perhaps? And maybe there needs to be a cut in that slab.
Well, let me add to what the mayor is saying here. we've already got some estimation here that we've had on the books for a little while. Did we not take into consideration at some point in time, we're going to have to do a topo? I mean, if we didn't think about it a year ago and we're just now thinking about it now, I share your concern. Why are we spending money, number one, on a slab we're not going to have? Why didn't we get that information when we just put the parking lot in? And why wasn't it in the original estimation?
I believe this was pre-parking lot, and I don't know why it wasn't in the original estimation. I just don't know.
I'm not wanting to be penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I understand that, but I'm just.
Well, I don't think we need it for the, I think we can stick with 4,500 and be fine. The question then is, if we've now contained all the water inside that slab, where's it going?
The other thing the topo is going to be useful for at a later date, remember, we're going to put a building back there and all that water's got to drain somewhere. So we need to know where it's going to drain out, if it drains out the front or if it's draining out the back, and what that volume of water is going to be. And normally you would say that's a contractor issue, and it is.
No, the grin, and I don't know if he's getting there or not, but I would
Once we
just
jackhammer out, then we got to retopo.
So I would cut a slot and watch the water, and you'll figure out which way it's draining. You know, if the remedy's going to be providing some relief, then for the same $2,250 and probably less, you can get some curb.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
have a quickie saw, run you a grid all the way across, so that whichever way it's running, watch the water and you'll know. And then if you've got ponding, come back and make the next
rip it
cut a little
again.
bit deeper, and don't waste the money. I just don't think it's a good use of a survey crew.
And I'm okay with that. I think it's fine. I don't think our engineers will have any problem with that at all. We added it in to kind of, because the parking lot got built after this and
It seems like, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, and Sean, you can be like, stop, but there's a discussion about whether or not we're even going to keep the back wall.
no, the back wall's coming down.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm back to,
Cut it and see what happens.
if you know what you're going to do to fix it,
And I'm not sure we're cutting it. I mean, it may be that we've kept the water off the sidewalls. That's all we want to do.
well, and then maybe that's what you
If
do.
it
is-
ponds in the middle of the foundation,
If,
so be it.
if and when it becomes a problem where it ponds, that's where it's draining to.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you can
And then
make
we'll
the
cut it
cut from there.
Yeah. Nothing that your fire department couldn't help us with, a big hose out there probably, and figure it out. So.
Any,
Everybody's looking at me. So that's my 2 cents, and it doesn't mean that we don't, and I could end up with egg on my face, and if you think we're really wrong, fine, but for right now, I would say.
If my engineer was here right now, he'd tell you, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, it just,
So what we need as staff is, everybody's okay with the engineering, we're not okay with the topo. And then, because we are going to need a budget amendment moving forward, they're estimating $15,000 to $30,000. I would hate to get into the project and it'd be $31,000 and we'd be short. I recommended in the budget, in the memo to y'all, a cap of $40,000 so that we can get a budget resolution or a budget amendment started and start the process on that. But whatever number y'all are comfortable with, we will start the process on it.
Well, let me just ask a question here, because I don't know the full details of it, but in your assessment, in your analysis of this for a temporary thing, are we going to be looking at perhaps more than one, let's say 3 different types of remediation, since it's going to be on a temporary basis? Are we going to look at doing something that's going to be very inexpensive or economical, I should say, and it's going to last for 6 months, a year, or whatever? Or are we going to look at several different variety, which may last a little bit longer, depending on where we go
what we're
with
shooting
this?
for right now, what we believe, what we hope to put in the report is something that lasts not less than a year, and probably won't last much more than a couple of years. 2 pieces, or 1 piece for sure, pointing and replacing a lot of the empty brick that's in there, which probably needs to be done before the next wall comes in anyway. So it's something that we're going to have to, either contractors have to do or whatever. As far as a sealant, I don't think so, but they're investigating some different kinds of sealants that have some breathability, which we need in this. I don't know on that, what's going to come out of that. The caps along the roof, we think are okay right now. I think we're not getting much water penetration from the roof, we don't think. But once we get up there with a lift, you may find a few big holes up there, you know, where we need some roof capping. That's got, you know, there's some pricing in there for that. There was a there's a drawing in the later of this that's got some roof capping pieces to it. So, but I think right now we're dry on the roof cap. I think we're okay there. Again, that's why this 15 to 30 is such a.
It's page 46 of the package. And Chair and Sean, just for clarification for the audience, we know we're going to have to, it's a pay me now or pay me later. This is a cost that this board knows that they're going to have to do the remediation on the building. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was going back, it was that assumption when we purchased this from the city, and that was part of the holdup of the lot being there was a cost for remediation, and there was unclear direction where to go. So that's when the current board at that time made the decision, if we're gonna help fund it, we want control of it, so to speak. So then it was purchased by the EDC to then be able to fund this and then have direction where it's going. So yes. Do we need to make any? You want a number? Is that what you're looking for? Or what do you
Yeah,
need
what
from
I
us?
need is a number for the budget amendment. I do not need, what I need is everybody to nod their heads up and down on the 4,500. That's in the engineering budget line item. We're fine on that. I can execute that. I have enough authority on that. What I need is for the budget amendment to actually do the remediation work to be able to bring back the budget amendment with the scope of work of what that's going to look, the budget amendment, and then we'll bring back the scope of work once we award the contract. So,
Sean, I'm not trying to get ahead of you, but if you'd like for us to do the report first, give you an actual opinion of probable cost from that report.
Eric, you have to use the mic or no one at home can hear you.
And give you a harder number. We could do the $4,500 report, give you an opinion of probable cost inside of that report, and give you a hard number, a number of, say within 3,000 to 5,000 instead of 15 or 20,000. Big sort.
Does that create heartache for you because we meet once a month?
yeah.
Right, that's going to add 2 or 3 months to the.
The risk to it is I don't get the report until the week before the board meeting next month, and I can't prepare the budget amendment to get it to council in May. That's the risk we run, is we're kicking the budget amendment to council in June versus May.
My recommendation being we're going into spring showers, I would say we need to get it done. We just doesn't need to stick around in red tape.
And whatever we do the budget amendment, it's going to cost, we'll try to keep the costs down. So, and you said you're thinking the number 40 would be a good number?
Yeah, with their range of 15 to 30, understanding we're trying to be as cost sensitive as we can here, just to make sure we have some contingency in there, the $40,000 range. And when I look at the OPC and add it up and go, we're going to do some, not all of the pieces, I'm comfortable with the 40 with a target of less than 30, but what I'd hate to have to do is run a second budget amendment through, because it's a lot. It's not that I'm complaining about paperwork, but it is paperwork and it's time when you're talking about an EDC budget amendment.
So we're fine, or do you need action from us now?
If everybody's okay with 40, nodding their heads up and down, we will do what we need to do to come back in April with a $40,000 budget amendment.
We got to get it fixed. I looked at that man and told him we'd get it fixed. We're getting it fixed.
Just get it fixed.
Okay, moving on to item 3.5. Consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding an agreement for a temporary art installation on 921 Main Street.
So this is one that there's a little bit of confusion here. We're looking at the EDC portion of this tonight. The city has made a request. There was some informal conversations with BAIPP at their last meeting because it is an EDC-owned site, not a city-owned site. But does the board even want to entertain this? We've asked it in Navarre to go ahead and draft a tri-party agreement on this. But if the board does want to consider placing Maya here, we still need a resolution to adopt this agreement. And then what we're waiting on from the city attorney at the moment is thumbing up as in the 3-party agreement versus the traditional 2-party agreement for an art placement is good, or thumbing it down that it's not. That's why we don't have a resolution for it tonight. Once we get that thumbs up or thumbs down and work through that, should the board want to do this, we will kick it back to the city of Bastrop so they can run the traps on their side through Bastrop Art in Public Places and the city council's approval on it. But we wanted to make sure that the board was aware that we've had a request to place Maya here. She is a 15,000-pound stone sculpture by Ronaldo Alanis? Okay, y'all are better than me. My English obviously failed me here. And what we, in visiting with Sarah and visiting with the city, is we have a pair of gates at the front of 921. They swing open, leave about 10, 12 feet on each side. Appropriately fencing the rear of that in some type of fencing that looks very similar to the gates. You can go buy standard size panels at Lowe's and Home Depot to close that off. So visitors could walk all the way around Maya, but they're not able to get into the site. That's one of the reasons the gates were closed, was for safety and security reasons, considering the site conditions a couple years ago. And then place her in this position. I visited with Eric while he was stuck in traffic on the way out here to let him know that there may be some questions about, hey, if we move forward with the remediation, can we get the equipment in that we need? Generally, Eric and I think that we can position Maya in a way to get a skyjack in there, a scissor lift in there to be able to go up and down the walls and do the work necessary. But Eric can answer any other questions as not an engineer, but as a guy from KSA that works on some of these projects, as to whether his professional opinion we can get a scissor lift in there, a skyjack in there safely and avoid damaging the art piece.
Why would we do this if we think we're going to be building a building in 6 months?
So the contract allows us to give 28 days notice to remove it. So as soon as we're moving forward with the building and have, we know that we're probably 3 months out from probably being able to sign a lease, 3 months to develop plans, so it could be on public display for up to 6 months on the low end, 6, 9, 12 months on the high end. And it's from what I understand, and I am not an art person, it's a fairly famous piece, was on display at another location. It's here in Bastrop for some other work associated with it. They are, my understanding is they're making some bronzes of it, and so it needs to be close to the foundry so that they have access to it. But the request was, hey, City of Bastrop, do you have someplace appropriate for a 15,000-pound stone sculpture that is accessible to the public? And this location came forward as one right there on Main Street available.
Well, I have a question. You're about to place it in the center like you're showing there, but like the mayor we just discussed the drainage. If you have this in the center, you're still going to be able to figure out where the water's flowing?
I was the Debbie Downer, because it may be 15,000 pounds. What's the value of the art?
I don't know that we know that yet.
And unfortunately, I have decades of working around contractors, and the prefab gate that you can buy at Home Depot has really no chance against possible. I'm just total Debbie Downer tonight. I just think this is asking for trouble.
Well, just curious, we've got an art center across the street. Why wouldn't that be an appropriate place to
I was also thinking, if it needs to be on city property, how about the convention center or somewhere else where there's not contractors working and there's a water standing issue?
Hello, Sarah O'Brien. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer all of your questions. My understanding is that Clint Howard approached Trey Job, Managing Director of Public Works and Leisure Services. I was brought into the fold to see if it would be acceptable piece of art to be placed somewhere, so I was not actually involved in determining the location, nor was BIAPP involved in suggesting any locations. So that was all done prior to my involvement, and I don't know the backstory.
So, not intending to make this complicated, but one of the things about art is it needs to be seen. And there is no art on Main Street. And one of the biggest draws that we have to this town are the people that are walking up and down Main Street. So we were trying to find a way that becomes a catalyst for people that are walking up and down Main Street to realize there really is a lot of art that would get you to the convention center, that would get you to City Hall, would cause you to do some other things. So I think that's how it ended up with Sean. The other piece is always looking for that iconic thing, because to be on social media, there needs to be this thing, and there needs to be me, and then there needs to be me with this thing. So this thing on Main Street would cause me to be able to stop and take a picture that would be different, that would be kind of iconic. So that's how we got to Sean. I appreciate all the background noise as to why it might not have been a good idea, but that's the rationale of how we got to Sean.
Is there any place else on Main Street that would serve the same purpose?
That's not stuck in a cubby hole. The great thing with that open wide space is if you're walking up and down both sides of the street, instead of seeing this wide open hole and go, why is there a wide open hole, you'd see the art. So it was really an innocent request that got to Sean from that perspective.
And I think Sean's completely innocent. I just know that the path to a bad place is paved with good intentions, and contractors, valuable piece of art. I just don't normally put them together.
We do have some public comments, so Deborah Johnson, I believe you.
Can I ask how big this is? I know it's 15,000 pounds, but is it 4 by 4 by 3 or?
Well, that gentleman in that picture is 7'1".
Is it 4 by 4? 4 by 4, 3 feet high.
7 by 4, 7 feet long, 4 feet wide. Looks like it's probably 42, 46 inches tall with him standing there.
Okay, hi. I'm Deborah Johnson. I live at 1109 Pecan Street. I've been a professional artist for over 30 years. At that time, part of that time was spent in Austin, about 8 years running a cooperative gallery. And for the last 7 years, almost 7 years, I've been running Art Connections Gallery, first here in Bastrop, now in Fayette County. I've also been quite active in the public art arena recently. I'm personally not put off by controversial art. Art Connections Gallery staged the first show of nude paintings in Bastrop, and I will tell you I got some pushback on that. My next featured show in Fayette County will be on gender identity, and I fully suspect there will be some folks in Fayette County who will not be happy with that. But the difference is I'm a private entity. I can put whatever art I want to in my space because I'm private. You guys are, in essence, a private entity as well, except that you're funded by public funds, sales tax, and you're looking at a very, very public place to put art. The challenge in public art is you have to move from, this is a cool piece of art, I really like this art, to, is this art appropriate for the setting it's in, for the community it's in, for the age group that is going to be looking at it. I think the piece in question, Maya, is an incredibly beautiful piece of work. It's beautiful, and I think anybody who wanted to put it someplace would enjoy it. However, it is a little bit controversial in that it's a little suggestive. I'm sorry, it's a form that's a little bit suggestive. We do have people taking photographs of public art in Bastrop. You see them sitting next to Poco a Poco, the turtle, which is on Main Street in front of the Visitors Center. They take pictures down on the bridge by the big heart and by the red people. So that is iconic. It is wonderful. I'm just asking you to consider, if you want a piece of art in that location, and that's a question you have to ask, maybe consider a different piece of art. The city owns quite a few lovely pieces of art, and maybe one of those might be more appropriate. And I also think whenever you place art, you have to be respectful of the art. And is that the right place? And the background of 921 is ugly. It's an ugly, broken down view. I think even if I thought this was an appropriate piece to put in a major public area like right down Main Street, okay, I think that it would be disrespectful of this piece of art to put it with a construction background behind it. So thank you.
Let me
Thank you,
just-
Deborah.
I'm sorry, let me just ask the question one more time, if you don't mind, because I really would like an answer, okay? It's art. I have no problem with it personally. I'm just curious as why that particular location, why not the art center over here? That's what it is. That's what it's for. So I just ask them the question, and it would be nice to have somebody respond to that.
I don't know that I can give you an answer. The request was made, we processed it. Linda did a much more eloquent job of championing art.
I think Linda thinks she answered.
I'll give you an answer. We didn't ask them, honest to God. That it's not any more complicated than that. We were asked, is there a place for this? Given its size, we were looking to put it where it would be seen. So I think I'd just gotten back from the conference in California, and it was the iconic thing you take a picture with, and one thing led to another. So if BEDC has zero interest, you kick it back to us, we'll take no, and we'll find a home for it.
Again, I'm not saying no. I'm just, it seems to me that since we have this center here and we're trying to, I think, promote it and trying to get people to go over there and look at it, would it just not be a better location is all? It's just my comments.
We have,
Well, I mean, I would agree with Linda that a lot more people walk up and down Main Street than walk down Chestnut to the art center. Probably people that go to the art center typically drive there, and it's not. We don't have enough connection between Main Street and the art center to get a lot of walking traffic that way. I don't think. So if there's not, I agree that. Yeah, there's, I guess, but save the piece over in front of the visitor center. There's not a whole lot of other stuff around, and I'm not thinking of another appropriate place for it.
How long is it expected to be there anyway? You said it was just temporary?
Yeah, we don't really know. We expect it until construction starts, would be my guess, 6 to 12 months. So as soon as we get ready to start construction on 921 as a building, that's why there's 28 days.
I thought it was just here so that the foundry could make work of it.
It's here on a temporary basis, yes. But how long that's going to take at the foundry, I do not know.
There's plenty of room over by the library if you wanted to get it on some grass and get it over there.
So back to your question, Sam. Basically, our understanding is the artist has the piece up for, not for sale, but for a bronzing. And so they need to keep it as close to the foundry as possible, which is why they've chosen that particular location, because it's open and it's easy to access to be able to take it back to the foundry if needed. And it's also very public.
we have some public comments. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, one more I would remind the board. What y'all are being asked is yes or no on 921. Any other location being considered for public art on city property goes to BAIPP.
Bonnie Coffey, you had some comments?
As a volunteer for Main Street, one of the things that I look at is who comes downtown. I have no objection to this, but what I'm looking at is that it's very climbable. If you have children, it's going to be out there where kids can climb on this. Look, we've even got a ledge that they can get up on to get over it. And I don't know that we want kids bonking their heads on either this or the concrete pad it's sitting on. So I'm a little concerned about it being, I understand that if you are an aficionado of art, you don't let people crawl all over it. But we all know that kids are kids, and parents are sometimes parents, and they get preoccupied. That's my thought.
I'd like to make a motion to say no to the art installation.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of saying no? Say yes. That's how the motion was made. Yeah. Yes. All opposed? Okay. There we have it.
Catherine, did you vote? You look like you're thinking.
Is there any comments, any further comments, or?
I don't want it hurt. I don't like the empty space. But it's not going to be empty long. That's going to be construction.
Okay, on to item 3.6, presentation, update, and possible action on the fiscal year 2018 grant program.
Sarah O'Brien is going to present this.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. As you guys know, the EDC has graciously funded a grant program over the last decade that has gone through several different life cycles. Last year, we did a revamp of the grant program from the facade and mega grant program to what we call the business incentive grant program. Last spring, when we received the secret shopper assessment, and in our conversations with our small business owners, we were really going to try to focus this year on revamping the program to make sure that it's really providing the best economic impact for our small business owners downtown, as well as a great return on the investment that you guys so graciously give to us. Due to the changes in the Main Street program's departmental structure with the city's hospitality and downtown department creation, the launch of our organizational work plan, Sean and I were originally scheduled to meet in October and November to discuss how we would revamp the program for this fiscal year. And unfortunately, because of all those changes, we had it on the calendar for January. And I take full responsibility. As you guys know, I didn't get a lot of other work done in January. And so I often believe that things happen for a reason. To get a grant program launched and completed where all the paperwork is done and the reimbursements are made, no matter what form the program would take, we would need to have those applications open right now to close it out before the end of the fiscal year. And unfortunately, because of everything we've had going on, we're not going to be able to do that. What we're asking for tonight is first the grace to go ahead and let us suspend the grant program for fiscal year 18, as well as provide some feedback for us. If you are willing, we would like to reconsider over the next 60 days how we could possibly utilize those funds to still have an impact on our small business owners downtown. And so we're in the process. We hosted a focus group this morning with some of our small business owners and revolutionists, as we like to call them. And we haven't talked about this money specifically, but we will have future conversations. And so if the EDC board will grant us some grace and let us suspend the program, and if you guys have any ideas or amicable to us possibly reallocating the funding, we'd love to hear those as well, and we can work up a more formal proposal and come back to you guys at a later date.
Can you refresh my memory on what the amount was?
It's $50,000. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any businesses that were anticipating that you're aware to apply?
We have had 2 or 3 inquiries this year, and I had told them that we were looking at revamping the program. It would not be in the same form or format. Over the last 30 days, we have had conversations with several of those business owners to let them know that the program would most likely not be available this year simply because of the timing, but that we are hopeful that we can use it in some form or fashion this year, and then, of course, come back in a more timely fashion for fiscal year 19 with the revamped program to directly benefit small business owners that we would have liked to have gotten to this year.
I think one of the worst things that we can do as a board is check the box and spend money, because back when we came up with the budget, we thought that was a good way to spend money. And I think we know things now that we didn't know 6 months ago.
Absolutely.
And so I'm extremely supportive of the idea of suspending it, getting it together. And honestly, if we can't come up with a real good way to spend it within this fiscal year, then we need to not spend it. And I'd rather roll it over or do something. I think how we spend the dollars is really important, and that's a responsibility that we have. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Do you feel confident that you'll be able to come up with a project that might fit this
I do. Based on the concepts that we had discussed with merchants and the Main Street Design Committee, I know Sean had some conversations with the board previously about some of the needs for downtown. Based on the secret shopper results, I think that we can still come up with a plan to use the grant program in the same context, and then also have a plan together for how we can use it to directly impact small business owners next fiscal year.
As a small business owner downtown, I would be all for that.
Thank you.
We don't need to formally suspend this, correct?
It looks like we do.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
really do
motion
need
move
y'all
to
to go
suspend.
ahead and take formal action to suspend the program for FY 2018. That way, when we're giving answers to the public, that we're standing on board action and not that of staff.
So I'll make the motion to suspend the FY 2018 grant program and direct city and EDC staff to evaluate and report back to the board regarding possible utilization.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, on to item 3.7. Consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding proposed debt issuance for fiscal year 2018 for the Agnes Street Extension Project and/or the Technology Drive/MLK Extension and Drainage Project.
So this is a continuation of the discussion last month, the presentation from Jason Hughes and Kristen Servant, Jason Hughes being with Hilltop Securities and Kristen Servant being bond counsel for the EDC. Sam, as treasurer, and I had a conversation this afternoon and have been having a conversation with Jason Hughes about timing of this issuance and where we stand as it relates to all of the projects that we have. This issuance today, if we're provided guidance to go to the markets and prepare bid documents, based on Jason's timing, we're looking at receiving money sometime in June. Knowing what our projects are and where we're at in the process, we don't necessarily need a decision today after Sam and I have conversed about this and what our cash position is. We do believe that we can go as late as the next meeting in April before we provide guidance, meaning we'll be bringing funds in July. Based on where we are in plan sets for both of these projects, that should be about the time that we're either awarding contracts or starting construction, depending upon which methodology we use to select a contractor for it. The rate increase that is coming in the near future is already priced into the market, and we're looking at a future rate increase probably another quarter out. And so we've got about a month's time frame here before it starts pricing into the market, is what Sam and I generally agree on. And so there's no pricing difference if we go to the market in the next week or we go to the market after the April meeting. But I do want to bring back some additional new information from Jason. And this chart's easier to read in your packet. He updated the 200,000 debt service total. At 200,000 in annual debt service, that's the principal reduction and interest. It's currently, based on interest rates that they're seeing, bringing in about $2.55 million. Last month, with interest rates the way they were looking at about $2.6 million and some change. And so you can see the market's already pricing in the anticipated interest rate change within the next week or so. I believe the Fed meets next Wednesday. Is that what? Yep, next Wednesday. So that would, the 20-year issuance is most likely to fund both projects, with the $400,000, $380,000 from the 2013 bond would get us to that almost $3 million mark. There might be a little bit of cash that's involved, but keep us in what I think is a safe and healthy cash flowable debt service amount. The other options continue to be the $1.2 million, which is about $95,000, and then a total $3 million issuance if we wanted to bond it all and still have the 2013 money left over to do something else would be about $232,000. My recommendation is to find another pen. Or to plug the computer in. would either be the 1.2 or the 2.5, the 200,000. Now, one of the things that Sam and I did have a conversation, and the other option is to move forward with a $1.2 million issuance, and once that's completed, and we know that we need the additional funds because we take on a third project, Jason did not seem to object to that. There would be a little bit of pricing difference in a second issuance. There's some fixed costs plus the amount that drives that. Based on the information I have at the moment, and I can bring Jason back next month to give y'all very specific information from him, that's probably in the 25 to 30,000 range between doing a single issuance and a dual issuance. But that's kind of where we're at. Sam and I kind of both concurred that we have a little bit of time. We don't need to rush this. We need to make the right decision. But I did tell the board last month that we would follow up with this ask. Sam and I, having spent the last couple of weeks in conversations with Jason and then today sitting down and going through it, I think our recommendation is let's see where we're at on the combination of projects that we have in 30 days, knowing that y'all can provide guidance and we're looking at July money versus June money.
Do you need a motion or ups and down
I
heads?
just need heads up and down and going, y'all aren't taking any action.
If there's no reason to rush into anything, if there's no penalty for gathering more information, figure that out. And I also want to make sure that I would challenge ourselves to look at if we're going to do them both at the same time or separately, to weigh what that cost is, if it's really a necessity, just to put that in the back of our heads so we're not surprised. We'd be prepared to make that decision at that point.
Yeah, and if it's as much as $25,000 or $30,000, I would think there needs to be some good reason for doing two issuances. And there may be, but
The one difference is you wouldn't be paying interest on the money until you actually need it. So that might actually offset the $25,000.
the interest that I'm getting on my accounts lately,
No, the interest you're paying
$25,000.
on the
Well,
debt.
yeah, okay, I got you.
3.5% or
So
whatever it is.
but you're not talking about doing a second one in a month or two. You're talking about farther
6
out.
months, 6 months.
Okay,
something
so
like
then it's just the risk of timing of projects and availability of funds. Okay. But Sean, you're extremely comfortable with waiting a month?
I am, because what I want to do is have Jason come back down in April and walk y'all through all of the options as it sits right there when y'all are making that decision, so y'all can tell him personally what that is. Asking him to come twice in a month, we get billed for that, but I think if we really are going to we are serious about issuing it, let's get him back down here in April. He'll fly down from Dallas, fly back that same night. But let's make the decision while he's in the room, and we can consider all the options, and we can have time to build out the cash flow models and make sure that everything is going to flow according to plan. Looking at our fund balance, available funds, we have about, once you take off our reserve, about $3.6 million available. So we have enough cash to fund both of these projects to completion. It would just leave us cash poor at the end of it. And so at some point we're going to want to do an issuance, and we just need to make sure that if we're going to incorporate a third project later in this year, that we're positioned to be able to do that. So.
Fair enough. Thank you. Going on to 3.8. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on Resolution R 2018-0001, approving a change order with Bowman Consulting for the Technology Drive / MLK Extension and Drainage Project for off-site surveying related to MLK rights-of-way in an amount of $13,500.
So this was a late addition to the agenda on Friday afternoon. As we went through and looked at what the approval process for a change order, it's been a while since the EDC has done a project of this magnitude or a change order of this magnitude. We decided it was in the best interest of the board to go ahead and go through the resolution process going, hey, you're fully informed and y'all are making the decision and giving us the signatory authority to be able to issue it. It will be what you have in your packet is a proposal from Bowman to do the survey work and then also the engineering design survey for approximately 800 feet along MLK where technology is going to connect in. The survey data that would normally be available from the city of Bastrop or Bastrop County is just not available for us. And so as part of off-site work for this project, we need to go survey that to make sure we know exactly where the right-of-way is and how those streets are going to connect. And it was not contemplated in the original scope of work with Bowman. There was an assumption at some point along the way that, hey, we're going to be able to get this survey data from the city of Bastrop or their engineer, or we're going to be able to get it from Bastrop County, who owns the neighboring properties, or their engineer. It just was not available when we got into the design. The street alignment there is critically important that we get it right, because we have way too many streets that are offset, and we want to make sure we know exactly how to interconnect those and have a straight shot through there. So it's $13,500 for the combination of the right-of-way survey, boundary survey for MLK and Mill Street, and that 800 feet of engineering design survey based on this proposal. Approving the resolution tonight, we'll get a change order from Bowman, attach it to the resolution, get it all executed, and get them going. Charlie has, I think he has reviewed the resolution tonight. He had not reviewed. Is it good? Okay, we're going to make some changes to the.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm totally annoying tonight. Sorry about that. Did we assume that we had the survey data, or did they assume they would be able to get? Who made the assumption?
So Bowman based their scope of work based on the bounds of construction. And then when they got into the design phase and got to the end of the street and went, hey, we're going to tie into that street, we need our elevation height and where the right-of-way is to make sure it lines up. And it was not available from the city of Bastrop or Bastrop County. And the data that was being used previously was from Bastrop County Appraisal District and basically the parcel data boundaries, and that's not accurate enough to actually do an engineering design.
There's a part of me that says the scope of work was the scope of work, and it's not like that street was built yesterday, or so I would look for other comments.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that one also. I would agree. I mean, these people have been doing this for quite a long time. Why would not that have been even contemplated in the scope of work? I mean, obviously they're going to have to tie into it. They're going to have to take a look at the current records and whatnot. So I kind of share that. I'm wondering why they didn't understand that that was going to have to be part of it.
Well, also, didn't they do this when we're just looking at funding to build this road? Wouldn't it already been done when we looked at that?
So we have surveying, on-site surveying was built in there, and we went in and surveyed for both the street and the hydrology. We just did not have any off-site surveying because typically the city would have survey data associated with their right-of-way for their streets, and it's just not available from the city of Bastrop or Bastrop County.
And if the contract's in here, I apologize. So are you saying that that was listed as an assumption in their contract? They did their pricing based on having access to that, or is it not mentioned in the contract?
I would actually have to go back and review it and make sure. But
I guess, can we not assume anymore?
we're not assuming anything. We know that the survey data that should be available is not available. That's what we know. And in order for them to design the street, they're going to have to go out and survey City of Bastrop right-of-way that the City of Bastrop doesn't know where it's at.
So what about the design? Were they not planning on designing the 800 feet of street?
No, because we're just connecting in. This is 800 feet of MLK and Mill Street that we're surveying with this. So we get to the end of our street at Technology. We don't know what the right-of-way on the other side of our street looks like. What city right-of-way on the other side where we tie in, that survey data on MLK and Mill Street, that should be part of the city records of when those streets were constructed, is not available. It's not available from the city engineer. It's not available from the third-party engineer of the city. It's bounds of construction. Hey, y'all built this street up to this point. Where's the as-built? Where's your survey data? Doesn't exist. No. We surveyed all of our side. That was included. We didn't know we were going to have to go survey city right-of-way.
I do have one question on this street. When do you actually plan for it to be finished? I know with the funding and the surveying, do you have a broad plan for the street, MLK to be done, the connected?
End of the year, first part of next year would be my guess at where we're at right now, plan set wise. This is going to delay us about 30 days would be my guess.
Okay.
Because we're going to have to send a survey crew out there. They're going to have to go produce the field survey notes, and then they're going to have to go back and model that for the engineers to be able to figure it out. And part of this is necessary is because the design that we were based off of is a previous engineer's design of where that street right away in the park is. And it does not line up with MLK and Mill Street as we would expect it to. And so all of this was built off of a previous engineer's layout of the park. And when we got out there and did our surveying and bumped up against it with where the city survey should be, we went, hey, we need the city survey data, and it's not available. And so that...
I understand. I just know building this road was, I mean, it puts us in ordinance with the cities having this second. So I'd like to get it done if we can.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Catherine?
I hate to ask this really stupid question, but why is there not a survey? So where would it be? It's probably somewhere, don't you think?
It is not with the city's third-party engineer, the city engineer, or Bastrop County. They cannot produce it.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
True. But if they can't produce it, if it's not...
So I'm just thinking it's somewhere. How hard have we dug around to find this survey? I mean, looking at all the unusual places, it just seems like it's somewhere.
I'm not surprised that we don't have it.
I'm not either.
And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be ugly, but if you go back 15, when was the street built?
I have no... When MLK was built down there? 30 years ago, 40 years ago?
I wouldn't even be surprised if they did one of these when they put it in, and that's why they don't have as-built.
Yeah, if this is the biggest, this is not even design-wise, this is not even the biggest issue that we've had to deal with on these two projects.
What I can tell you is we won't have
money.
this problem moving forward.
Yeah.
I can assure you that, but I'm not surprised that it doesn't exist, or that we don't have a copy of something that may or may not have been created to begin with.
Any other
It's
comments?
coming out of contingency?
It's coming out of project
She
contingency.
can't stand it. She's back.
I just have to comment on that. Even if we had it, there would be no guarantee that it would be correct. I can't tell you the number of cities that I've been at that we've pulled the as-built out of the drawer, and it's 50 feet off of it. So even if we had it, there really wouldn't be a guarantee it'd be right. I know that's terrible, but the mayor is exactly correct. I think us moving forward with our GIS and going paperless, we're working really hard to correct these kinds of things because it ends up costing us a lot of money and time not to have them. But even if we had them 30 years ago, there'd be no guarantee that the as-built would actually be what they'd find when they get out there. Not that it makes you feel any better, but just saying.
So my frustration is, given that, and I'm not trying to cast stones on, I don't know if there's anyone here from Bowman, because I would tell them this directly. They've done business with the city long enough that that's an assumption that they should not have made, and it should be clear, and it should have been a part of their price to begin with. That's what I'm frustrated about. Our scope of work has not changed. So that's why I'm very interested. Did the contract say we are planning on you providing us something, and that is an assumption in why we came up with our price, or was it not mentioned at all? And I think that's a very big difference. And if the contract's in here and I should be able to find it, I apologize, but when I was flipping through there, I'm not finding that.
No, we'll make loading all of these documents into y'all's Dropbox in a separate folder so that y'all have them like we've done for 921 Main.
Yeah.
So that you have access to them.
The contract is not in the packet.
No, it is not.
Well, we couldn't vote.
It makes me feel better because I thought I had looked for it. So I realize that it comes out of contingency. If they didn't have it in their price, they didn't have it in their price. But personally, I think it's worth, what does the contract say? What did they sign up for? You know, We're all grown-ups. It's not personal, it's business. So if they were counting on the city providing them something that the city could not provide, I have no heartburn whatsoever. If there is no mention of it whatsoever, and this work we're not changing scope by including this work, I've got some heartburn personally. And I know I'm only one vote, but that's a piece of the puzzle that I don't have to feel good about making a decision tonight. At the same time, being respectful of the fact that I don't want to drag out the project.
Well, could we, is there a way not to prolong this? Is there a way to pass a resolution that's a what if? Or does it have to come back? Do we have to get true clarification? If it's included in the scope and it was, an assumption was made, but if the assumption is not made, and this is really to Mayor's point, that it needs to be done and that the city just doesn't have it, then we could say that at that point we would fund it.
Because I want to be fair to this consultant and any other consultant. We need to be fair, but we need to hold people accountable.
Can you hear me? There we go. All right. So there is I mean, y'all could approve it subject to council's review. My concern is if it's not crystal clear, how some of these contracts are written, I could review it and go, oh, it's very clear that it's not included within the scope of work, or it's very clear that it isn't included in the scope of work, or I could go, it could go either way. And I don't know how comfortable I'd be saying, approving a $13,000 500 contingency amount, given the concerns that you have in a gray area, without coming to you first and telling you my findings. Does that make sense to you?
I think you're saying we know how attorneys are, is I think what you're saying.
Well, I just reviewed one the other day where I went, no, this is very clear the way this is, in my opinion, and I didn't have any heartburn over it. All I'm saying is I haven't read this one, so I don't know what it's going to say. And it could go one of either three ways. Very clear one way, very clear the other, or it's arguable.
How big of a deal is it for us to table it until we research the contract?
It's going to be more, I don't think it's a big deal, it's just time from that perspective.
Well, we're still waiting on the bond for 30 days anyhow for the money.
And we've been waiting 4 or 5 years for the project, at least.
Yes, and I will say that I'm probably a little more motivated to get this project done. This has been on the EDC's docket for many of years, and we kind of get to a certain point and we take 2 steps back. To your point, yeah, we are waiting on the bond, but we do have some cash reserves. We obviously don't want to fund it all out of cash, but it's for a third project coming. We would then issue a debt, if I'm not mistaken, so that's kind of the direction we're going. At the end of the day, if we're waiting, I agree with Mayor and Catherine as far as the cost, where it is and where it needs to be. But I also think that, are we not going to do this because of a survey? That's the question I would ask, number one. If we are intent on doing it, maybe we could work out a way that we could kind of still research the contract, figure out what it is, and then at that point make that decision. I don't know if there's a way to do that, but that's what I'd like to see done.
I think what Cam said was, can we make a motion that says that we are empowering Cam to execute a change order after getting your opinion and having a discussion with the engineer? Because I think if your opinion is it was clearly included and they shouldn't get a dime, that's one thing. If it's like, it's iffy or it wasn't included, then the amount's either going to be 13.5 or lower.
Yes, ma'am.
So can we say that we trust the chair to work with the executive director and our council, and that we realize that there will be a change order moving money out of contingency not to exceed $13,500, so that if it is gray area and you negotiate a better deal, you don't have to come back because we've set a number that's not exact. Is that a possible?
Very possible, yes, ma'am.
So do you want to reword?
So that's my motion.
Well,
I was about to say, do you want to
I was
reword
not
that?
going to say that. Very well said. I can only guide.
So I make a motion that the chair of this board, Cam Chavez, works with Executive Director Sean Kirkpatrick and our legal counsel, Charlie Zeck, to investigate the contract and come up with a reasonable solution moving forward that will be a change order, if necessary, not to exceed $13,500.
I second.
All in favor? And our attorney is nodding his head yes. Well done. On to 3.9, presentation and update on the EDC's programs, events, and projects. Review of the first quarter key performance indicators, 2018 Youth Career Day on April 20th, 2018 launch, small business workshops on March 20th, the Bastrop Business Bash to celebrate Bastrop businesses, scheduled for May 1st, 2018. South by Southwest Interactive Trade Show, Best Economic Development Group, the Opportunity Austin Southern California Marketing Trip on April 8th through 11th, and Seton Family of Hospitals.
So we want to go through the update tonight, and with everything going on in January and February, we did not get to the first quarter KPIs, and so with that, we have 5 categories within the KPIs: education, workforce, business climate, infrastructure, quality of life, and marketing. And you see the results for, and then we added administrative and operational to that because there was no way to account for that. One of the things that, and one of the reasons we're not doing a full workshop tonight on this, because it really needs a full workshop, is Thursday's joint meeting is going to really talk about the strategic plan, and we may be jumping the gun before we visit with council on a full workshop, depending upon what comes out of that. What we found after the first quarter, and a lot of what we do, we don't have clear KPIs in an area to mark them and go, hey, we met with a primary job prospect, where's it go? We met with a developer for a non-primary job project. Is it business climate? Is it infrastructure? It doesn't really fit sometimes within the KPIs that we have. And that's a lot of what we do, is meeting with primary job employers, meeting with developers that are going to be driving developments that have non-primary jobs. And there's not a clean KPI to go, hey, we did this. And it may be doing what we did with operational administrative tasks that are everyday things that are special that y'all need to know about, and going, hey, we had a site visit today, and it's just really primary employer recruiting. The other couple that we've had some struggles with, or the other one beyond those two, is business retention and expansion. We really are just treating it now like it's a small business development, and the criteria for that in business climate, I believe it's business climate, isn't that correct, Angela? Or is it quality of life, small business? And so we don't really have a place to put those. And we do that month in, month out. And so we really need to have the meeting on Thursday, come back and have a full workshop and break all of these down and go, here's what we're missing and here's what we're not. But we did want to report them to you, at least in the quarter following the quarter they were relevant in. Plus, we'll have 2 quarters of data to really be able to have a basis of a baseline of the first and second quarter of the year, because March is the end of the second quarter for us. We didn't want y'all to think that we'd forgotten about this. Youth Career Day is coming up on April 20th. Gene is working with getting employers lined out. We've got a great motivational speaker coming. As y'all have heard before, made some minor changes and tweaks to it this year with the school district. It's going to be a great event. If you didn't register, tomorrow is the launch event, which is our small business workshop and luncheon. Going to have some great panels on there. We're very appreciative to the city of Bastrop for the Navigating City Regulations panel. Trey Jobe, Dave Gaddis, and Wesley Brandon are going to be speaking on that panel. We have a substitution at moderator there. Colin Guerrero is going to moderate that panel. We're real excited about that, with all the exciting changes that they have going on within the planning and development department and everything going on there. All good panels. Alicia Cook is going to be speaking and keynoting at lunch on the 8 secrets of a secret shopper. She did a full workshop for us last year. We're real excited to be having her. So if you have time, if you're not registered, stop by, come see us. But that goes on tomorrow from 9:30 to 3:30 to 3 o'clock, and the mayor and city manager are going to stop in and do welcomes in the morning and then at lunch. So, Bastrop Business Bash. I don't know that this has been released out in the public domain yet, but that May 1st is during Small Business Week, and that was the week last year that we had the launch in. We moved it up to be closer to the new year for folks that want to be entrepreneurs, and so we wanted to do something to celebrate small business, and so we've got a keynote speaker coming in for that. We'll be announcing shortly. But My Bastrop Shop Local campaign, you can see at least the white version of our Buy Bastrop, Buy My Bastrop brand that's coming out. We'll be launching that on May 1st, and really you'll see some marketing and social media driving why everybody needs to shop local, to dine, for entertainment, for shopping. And so that is May 1st from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Convention Center. We're very excited about that during Small Business Week, and you'll be seeing more details as we get closer to the event. So last week was South by Southwest, and so we cooperatively with the Bastrop, Elgin, Smithville, and Bastrop County do an economic development and tourism booth at the South by Southwest Interactive. It runs Sunday to Wednesday. We're very thankful for everybody that came out and worked that booth. I think we've developed a quality of leads across both those sectors, both economic development-wise and tourism-wise, of why when you come to South by Southwest, come a day early and come to Bastrop, or when you're leaving, come to Bastrop. Or if you're funding your own nickel as a startup, you can stay in Bastrop a whole lot cheaper than staying in downtown Bastrop. I priced a hotel while I was down there at the Four Seasons. It was $1,600 a night. And the Fairmont was running $499, $500, $600 a night. So come to Bastrop, you can stay a little more affordable and get that personal touch downtown. But it was a good booth for us. We're very thankful. I sent out to y'all last week, KUT Radio did an interview with Sarah O'Brien. She did a great job on that, great article on it. It's in the Advertiser over the weekend as well, so we appreciate the good coverage on that. Other updates, this was included in the first item. Thursday, March 22nd at 6:30 in this room, joint meeting between the EDC and City Council. Y'all should have packets on that loaded in Dropbox and emailed to you. Opportunity Austin, Southern California marketing trip. I missed an in there. April 8th to 11th. And then, as all of y'all know, Seton is preparing to do their groundbreaking. Last tentative date we had was April 17th. Y'all should be getting invitations through the chamber or from Seton directly as the board, city council. Did I get the date wrong again? I do not. That's all I know at this moment. So for the record, the chamber organizes ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings. We just supply the shovels and the bows on the shovels. So you join the chamber and you say, we want to do a groundbreaking, and the chamber plans it all. We will come in and help with if there needs to be hors d'oeuvres or water or those kinds of things, especially for a project like this, to make it an experience for everybody coming out. But that is coming up here pretty quick. And so that is my updates for the month.
Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Noon is what I'm being told. New information coming in.
Sounds like we're buying lunch.
Nah, probably not.
The time is 6:24. See? That's right. The Bastrop EDC Board of Directors will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, to discuss the following. Section 551-072, deliberation about the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, Project Revolution. Section 551-074, personnel matters, and Section 551.071, attorney-client consultation, personal matters, review of responsibilities of the executive director, and discussion regarding employment agreement. The time is now 7:13. The Bastrop EDC Board of Directors We'll reconvene into open session to discuss, consider, and/or take any action necessary related to executive sessions needed noted herein. We are adjourned.